Imagine a company so admired that it became the pride of an entire nation, a tech star worth more than the country's biggest bank. And then imagine discovering that nearly 2 billion euros of its money simply did not exist. This is the story of Wirecard. Wirecard began as a German payments company, the kind of business that processes the card transactions humming quietly behind everyday life. But it sold a bigger dream, that it was Germany's answer to the fintech revolution, a digital payments champion built for the future. Investors fell in love. The stock soared, climbing higher and higher year after year. In 2018, Wirecard joined the DAX, Germany's index of blue-chip giants, taking a seat beside names like Siemens and Volkswagen. At its peak, it was valued at around 24 billion euros, worth more on paper than Deutsche Bank itself. The story powering all that hype was a booming overseas business. Wirecard said it was making enormous profits processing payments across Asia, working through a network of partner firms in places like the Philippines. Analysts cheered, fund managers piled in, and ordinary savers bought the stock believing they had found Germany's next great success story. On paper, the profits kept rising and everything looked perfect. But underneath that perfect surface, a question was beginning to form, a question about money that, it turned out, no one could actually find. Here was the heart of it. Wirecard claimed that around 1.9 billion euros sat safely in trustee accounts in Asia, cash held on its behalf in Philippine banks. There was just one problem. The money was not there. It never had been. On paper, there was a mountain of cash. In reality, there was an empty room. The bank confirmations that were supposed to prove the money existed turned out to be fake, and the Central Bank of the Philippines later said the funds had never even entered the country's financial system. For years, one person had been trying to tell the world. Financial Times journalist Dan McCrum dug through Wirecard's accounts and published red flag after red flag, starting back in 2015. He kept writing year after year, warning that the numbers did not add up. But instead of investigating the company, Germany's financial regulator, BaFin, went after the messenger. It banned investors from betting against Wirecard's stock, and it filed a criminal complaint against the journalists, accusing them of market manipulation. McCrum was even placed under surveillance by investigators working for the company. The truth teller was treated as the suspect. The reckoning came through the auditors. The accounting giant EY had signed off on Wirecard's books for a decade, but in 2020, when they finally tried to confirm that 1.9 billion in cash, they could not. EY refused to sign off. Within days, Wirecard admitted the missing money may never have existed at all. The stock collapsed almost to zero. In June 2020, Wirecard filed for insolvency, the first member of the DAX ever to do so. CEO Markus Braun was arrested, and the chief operating officer, Jan Marsalek, vanished. He slipped out of the country and disappeared, and to this day he remains a fugitive, reportedly hiding in Russia with alleged links to its intelligence services. Investors were wiped out, savers who trusted the story lost everything, and Germany was left to confront the biggest corporate fraud in its history, complete with a humbling national inquiry into how the watchdogs missed it for so long. So how do you spot the next Wirecard before it falls apart? Here are 5 red flags. Number 1, when a company shows big profits on paper, but the actual cash can never be independently verified, be very careful. Number 2, watch out when revenue flows through obscure third parties in faraway places that outsiders cannot easily check. Number 3, be deeply suspicious when a company attacks its critics and journalists instead of simply answering their questions. Number 4, beware a stock price and a story that race far ahead of the real, provable business underneath. And number 5, remember that auditors and regulators can rubber stamp a company for years and still miss an enormous hole. Their approval is not a guarantee, so protect yourself. Do your own due diligence, read beyond the headlines, and never assume that because everyone believes a story, it must be true. If an opportunity seems too good to be true, ask the simplest question of all. Where is the money actually? Wirecard had the perfect story. It just didn't have the cash. If you learned something, subscribe to Stick Figure Stories for more. Thanks for watching.